As we wrap up the conversation, we are joined by the One SA movement leader, Mmusi Maimane, who was really instrumental in drawing attention to President Cyril Ramaphosa's CR17 funding. He joins us to unpack why it's important to South Africans for the president to declare the CR17 funders. But before we speak to Maimane, let's watch the 2018 parliamentary clip to see where it all started.
Now, Mr. President, here I hold a proof of payment that was transferred to say R500,000 rands need to be transferred to a trust account called EFG2 on the 18th of October last year. This was allegedly put for your son, Andile Ramaphosa. Following on to that, Mr. President, I have a sworn affidavit from Piet Venter stating that he was asked by the CEO of Bosasa that he must make this transfer for Andile Ramaphosa. Mr. President, we can't have family members benefiting. I would want to ask you right here today that you will bring our nation into confidence and please set the record straight on this matter, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
The Honorable...
That is Mmusi Maimane, when he was, of course, still a member of the DA in Parliament, questioning that 500,000 rands payment, which then later, of course, was a matter taken to the public protector. It unpacked the bank statements of the CR17 campaign to only find that there was close to 500 million, actually, that was doing the rounds in that particular account. Mmusi joins us now. Mmusi, when you were asking that question initially, did you even think that there is actually that amount of money that was involved in this campaign?
Good evening, and good evening to fellow South Africans. At the end of the day, I simply was asking for accountability in the context of which there was missing. You'll remember the genesis of state capture began with a fairly corrupt company in Bosasa that was then doing business with many officials in the ANC. So to me, even, my thinking was not even about just only the president, but also, you'll recall, there were many other officials in the ANC that had benefited from Bosasa. But when it then came forward later that the president at that time had given an answer that he later wanted to change in Parliament, that's when unraveled to tell us that there were many stories that were being told here. And I think that story still needs to continue. I believe accountability is not the exclusive role of somebody. If we want to take an example from President Mandela, he said, accountability starts with me. And I don't think any leader or any president should ever be exempt from being subject to the law. And in this instance, I think President Ramaphosa must account.
Well, I was also saying you as well. While you were in Parliament, you should account for who was funding you. In fact, all public figures should be compelled to tell us who is funding them and their agenda.
Absolutely. And I've never once, for 1 second, when the question was made that in politically internal campaigns, funding of donors must be made public to Parliament, I then immediately complied. You can go to the parliamentary records. You will discover very quickly who gave Mmusi Maimane money to campaign internally for the campaign of the DA. The regulations were very clear. We needed only to comply for the regulations inside the DA, not for the purpose of Parliament. But then when it became quite clear that I needed to do so, I immediately complied. So I've never shied away from that matter, let alone kept it secret. I've gone out to do it. The bigger question that we should never lose track of is, what do people benefit in return? Let's dare never forget that Bosasa, we're getting millions in contracts. The issue is not about who gives you money to campaign. You can declare that. That's not the crime. The crime is when you occupy a high office and then somebody derives business benefits as a result of that contribution. And Bosasa, in this instance, had all the contracts for the correctional services. And you will recall the first act that the president did when he came into office was to move Arthur Fraser into the office of as the Director General in the office in correctional services. So you will recall that this matter required about how powerful people use their offices in order to be able to facilitate, or at least in principle, assist in some of these matters. And I think it needs to be investigated. I'm not saying the president is guilty. I'm saying the matter must be investigated so that he can also face accountability, as would anyone else.
One would say powerful people with deep pockets could have facilitated your removal from the DA.
Well, I'm not here to hypothesize on those particular issues. When I left the DA, it was specifically because I felt I needed to pursue a project of building one South Africa. And certainly, without doubt, I believe if I'd stayed in the DA, I was comfortable enough. I'd enjoyed the support of many in the organization itself. So I felt that in principle, I didn't want to contest this issue of saying, are we building two separate visions? I always maintain a vision of one South Africa. I wanted to build an organization that speaks to all the people. I certainly wasn't committed to a project that focused only on a few individuals. And if there were particular donors within the DA or that wanted that particular project to thrive, I certainly made my views very clear that this wasn't the project that I was committed to. I was committed to a project of building one South Africa for all citizens, regardless of race, class, or standing.
Now, in your position as leader of One South Africa, what is your view of the call within the ANC right now for President Cyril Ramaphosa to unseal those bank statements? Do you think it is a genuine call, or is it a call sealed or covered up in political factionalism happening in the party?
I think the relationship that the ANC, regardless of who's in the ANC, has with money tenders is primarily corrupt and rotten. It's irrelevant who they are asking to step down or whatever. We've got to break the patronage system of the ANC. Here, the rest of us as a country are sitting at home on tender hooks, waiting for who's going to remove the president. It tells you that the power has shifted away from citizens. What we want is for citizens to have power. We shouldn't be sitting on tender hooks to watch an ANC meeting with the hope that a new president could emerge coming from there. That, to me, tells you how quickly, in fact, democracy has shifted away from people. That's why I'm going back to people to make sure people can hold the state to account. Today, citizens must be able to say, Bona, this candidate who comes from this community has been found to be corrupt. Therefore, we as the community want that person to be removed. This is not the ANC's money that was stolen. This is South Africa's money. So why are South Africans' views not being expressed in that matter? I think the entire organization, if it is going to succeed, will tell you continuously that corruption is also going to succeed. If we want a new different, we better change how we vote for people, change parties, and ensure that ultimately we build a South Africa for all. If we carry on down the same path, I'm telling you, another faction in the ANC is going to win, and then furthermore, they are going to now treat it as their turn to eat.